All right, folks, welcome back to Mike and Maurice's Mind Escape. We have episode number 128 today. We have Mike Brancatelli from the Mikeadelic podcast, and we're going to be doing a little bit of swapcast in here. And check out his podcast. I have the links down below the video. I also have his website down there. Check it out. And what's going on, man? Glad to have you on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
How you guys doing?
Good. How are you?
Good.
It was interesting. I first came across you. I think it was either on Twitter or I can't remember if it was on Twitter or maybe DMT World. And I'm like, oh shit. I'm like, that's a sick name. I'm like, I wish I would have, because we have the same name. So I was thinking, man, that's sick. And then I looked at your logo. Like we had so many like similarity things. I never even heard of your. I actually was newer to podcasts like a couple years ago when we started, but then I came across your thing. I'm like, that's pretty sick, and I liked a lot of the topics you were talking about. There's a lot of similarities and crossovers. So why don't you give people just a little bit of a background on your podcast and kind of how you got into it?
Yeah, well, I was forced into it by the CIA. They told me penetrate the psychedelic community and find out all the information you can about these kids hitting Deemsters and all the wooks. No, I just kind of I started doing stand-up comedy in New York, and I was podcasting with a friend of mine, Dave Smith, who's on a couple podcasts, Legion of Skanks, and Part of the Problem was the show that I did with him. And I just I was experimenting on my own with psychedelics, listening to a lot of McKenna, getting involved, doing the research and experimentation as you do, and was like, man, I just got a lot to say about this. Mm-hmm. And so I started it up at the end of 2016, and then I went and drank ayahuasca in the jungle, came back, went back again, lived there for a little while, and I've just been doing it ever since. I love to do it. I love meeting new people like yourselves and podcasting and talking and it's been great. It's probably the longest thing that I've ever committed to, actually.
Nice. How long you been doing it for?
I think it's about 3.5 years, 4 years, something like that. Yeah.
Nice.
And you said you lived in the Amazon?
Yeah, for a little while. Yeah, about half of 2018, I lived and worked at a ayahuasca center in the Peruvian Amazon. Yeah.
How was that experience? Like, was that eye-opening in different ways, or was it kind of what you expected?
Meh, it was all right.
Yeah.
You know. No big deal. No, yeah, it was great. It was amazing. I mean, it was really. I wish I was still there in a certain way, because there's certain aspects of the civilized world, if you will, I guess, the Western world, America, where we live, that you miss.
Yeah.
But it was really amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds pretty cool. Now, you talk a lot about like cognitive liberty, and that seems to be like there's different people talking about that kind of stuff. I know like Hamilton Morris is a huge proponent of that. It's just this idea that you can go skydiving, but you're not allowed to explore your own mind, so I think that's appealing to a lot of people that are into psychedelics, because anybody that's done them and uses them properly, I guess you could say, or with caution, I think they want to be able to just be free about it. And I think that that's something obviously that's been stigmatized for years of not being legal, and just what came out of the 50s and the 60s with all the testing and stuff. So what's your specific philosophy on it? You think people should just be able to do whatever they want as long as they're not harming anybody? Or
Yeah, pretty much. And we should ban skydiving though. That's where I stand on that. No, it was interesting. It was, I remember Michael Pollan, he's such a big advocate of psychedelics, and he wrote the book How to Change Your Mind, really turned a lot of people on, a lot of straight people. And do people still say that? That's like a 60s term. Like,
watch out, bro.
Yeah. But yeah, like a lot of like I guess psychedelic naive people, or whatever, people that weren't exposed to that world. So I think he did a great debt of service doing that. But then he like wrote this article about like, hey, slow down now. Like there hasn't been a lot of research that's done. It's like, dude, like this isn't what it's about, man. It's about freedom, and Yeah, I did this like mocking him on a podcast on one of my Patreon episodes where I went through all the things that we haven't done more research on, so that we should like ban them and stuff. It's like,
Right.
man, like staircases kill like 72,000 people every year. Did you know that we haven't done enough research? We better start doing more on staircases. So, like all joking aside though, I think that really people should have you own your body, you own your mind, you own what's going on in here. Nobody else should lay claim to that, as long as you're not infringing on anybody else's rights to do the same thing that you would like to do, and you're not causing any harm. You should be able to do whatever you want. You should be able to drink heroin out of a fire hose if that's what you want to do.
Yeah. What are those
Highly
countries where everything's legal? I think those countries, like, isn't Switzerland or something fully legal with all drugs?
Well, Portugal has a model, like a decrim model and a model for getting people help. Like if someone does have a heroin problem, that they actually put them through a program where they can help them and take care of them. And they don't criminalize. They don't make these people criminals,
Right.
Which is, I think, really important. That's just a terrible thing to treat someone that way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, we've talked about that obviously before, but let's keep it light tonight. No harm reduction stuff tonight. But in terms of your experiences and stuff, I think what's interesting about doing podcasts and having these long form conversations is if you run a podcast, you get to talk to some of the people that you probably never thought you would have talked to, reading their books or whatever the case may be. Have you had anybody on that was like a huge hero of yours, or somebody that you're like, I can't believe I'm interviewing this person, or is there somebody that you want to?
Yeah, definitely. I think that two people that come to mind are Charles Eisenstein and Christopher Ryan. And I think those two people for me are real inspirations of mine. I really like the way that they think. I like their work. I love their books, and it's been great to get to pick their brain and then also like become friends with them and just be able to chat like whenever, which is really awesome. Pretty surreal because I listened to. Are you familiar with Christopher Ryan?
Yeah, he's been on Rogan. He wrote Civilized to Death and Sex at Dawn, I believe.
Yeah. So he was just a guy that I listened to a lot of his show when I was in New York and walking during the day and doing stand up at night, and he would tell a lot of stories about traveling and psychedelics and just very good storyteller, and so it was pretty surreal to get to meet him and to have him on the show, and then I did his show, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I like the episodes he did with him and Duncan Trussell and Rogan all at the same time. Those are pretty funny. But yeah, he seems to be an interesting guy. I don't necessarily agree with some of the philosophies of some of the stuff he says, but that I like listening to all different types of points of view and just seeing, and I think he makes a lot of good points though too. But
oh yeah, I don't agree with everything he says either. Yeah,
no,
which is great. Right. You get to hang out with people that you don't agree with and have some debate, some healthy debate sometimes too, which is nice.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there should be more of that. Obviously, we promote that kind of stuff too. Just trying to get at some sort of truth or maybe some common connection, So with the psychedelic stuff, like what's been fascinating you lately? Like is there any topic or any specific research that you've been paying attention to closely, or?
I don't really pay too much attention to the research stuff. I mean, occasionally I take a peek and see kind of what's going on and stuff. But I think what I'm really more interested in is the community that's being formed. The more and more that it seeps into the mainstream and the more people become aware of it, more people getting turned on, having experiences, talking about it, sharing and developing communities around it. Like I'm part of this community now called Isolation Tank, which we do these live streams on Facebook every Friday night. And it's a bunch of psychedelic people and conscious people, whatever. Sure. And it's great to see that, especially in this time with this fucking pandemic. So it's good. I like the bringing people together aspect of things, and then I just do them myself. So I like to really, have my experiences and go from there. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Do you have a particular one that you enjoy? Do you have one that stands out as your favorite?
Different ones for different occasions. I think I like to, ayahuasca and mushrooms. I like going in and doing deep work and, like bigger doses, and LSD I think is just great for having fun, and I man, I would kill to be like at a show right now on a couple tabs or something, it's fun. MDMA is great as well. I'm a big fan of ketamine. I also use that in sort of a therapeutic way as well. And I think DMT. I'm not huge on DMT because I'm too afraid that I'm gonna go over the edge a little bit with already how I am. I have a hard time conforming to the normalcy of this reality. So DMT is a scary one for me sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, that was what the other thing I was going to ask you is, we've been talking a lot about like the entities, and there's people that see the entities not just even on DMT but other psychedelics as well. What's your take on that? I mean, you talk to a lot of the same kind of people, and you research and look at and read all certain kind of stuff we do. Do you think it's part of our subconscious or part of our own brain kind of speaking to us, or do you think that there's something external going on?
Everything is a part of us. We're not separate from anything. So we always bring something to the table. I like the way that Robert Anton Wilson talks about it, where he's, he says, he thought he was receiving transmissions from Sirius in at some point in like the 1970s, and he went around asking different people. Like I asked a monk, and he told me this. I asked a priest, and he told me this. I asked, some psychedelic hippie type people, and they said this. And then I went to this. So everybody has their take on it, right? And I think that is that colors the flavors of the experiences, and I like the magical, mythical storytelling aspect of it. And I'm not too interested in a stagnant or static definition. Got it. Like what is it? Well, I don't know. It is what people say it is, right. I suppose, right?
Well, yeah, it's both the McKennas. They both said, if you're having the experience, it's real, whether it has some sort of implications in the real or non-altered state world. I mean, that's a different story. But I was just curious.
Self-transforming machine elves. Yeah.
It was weird? I was watching this documentary on Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber on.
Oh yeah, one of my heroes.
Netflix. His voice is almost identical to Terrence McKenna's. It's freaking creepy. The first time I'm like, this sounds like Terrence McKenna talking right now. It's so creepy. But I love listening to Terrence McKenna talk. When you said you were into comedy too. Now, are you still doing comedy? Are you still part of that world, or not really? Or
I'm currently not. I'm like a lawyer that's currently not practicing right now. I'm on sabbatical. I haven't been on a stage in a club in a couple years, mainly because I went backpacking around Southeast Asia, and then I came home and I went to Peru, and so I haven't really been around. And then since moving to Denver, but I like the vehicle of the podcast. Mm-hmm. And I've been doing some live events here in Denver that's kind of like a mashup of comedy and philosophy and psychedelics and stuff, and called Mind Jams. That's cool. It was pretty fun. Yeah, it was pretty fun. It was cool. And so that had to be put on pause because of this pandemic. Mm-hmm. So I like to infuse it into whatever I'm doing, so whatever it is, that's just the nature of how I am. It's hard for me to really take anything too seriously. So, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, with all this going on, it does suck, but I mean, I've kind of just treated it like an opportunity to do other creative things that you might not have time for normally, like get in more podcasts. We for a while we were doing 3 or 4 interviews a week, and
Oh, nice. Wow.
some of the interesting thing is some of the people that you try and work around people's schedules. We're trying to get Rick Strassman on, and then we finally got him on, and he had a bunch of time because of all this stuff going on. Same thing with Peter Scherstedt and all these different people that they normally are professors and doing a lot of other stuff. So that's been kind of cool, that way to talk to some of these people and at least make use of the time. But I think you see right now a lot of people are just aching to get back to some sort of normalcy, but there's so much stuff
Good
going.
to infuse the comedy though, and this time,
Yeah,
it's,
Maurice is a big comedy buff. I mean, we grew up with comedy too. That's why I brought it up. I mean, do you listen to a lot of comedy podcasts too, or is it do you?
Not really.
No.
No, I don't really listen to a lot of podcasts so much anymore. I used to.
See, I would rather
I
do
find
that than watch TV now at this point. I would rather listen to like a decent conversation than watch, some idiots on TV, to be honest.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I can't remember the last time I actively watched television.
Right.
I mean, occasionally I'll watch a series or something on Netflix or HBO or something like that. I mean,
Sure.
I like Rick and Morty. I watch that. Big fan of that show. And
that's a real mind melter.
I love it. Yeah, I love it. I
Yeah.
watched The Midnight Gospel. I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, I started watching that. I haven't finished it, but that's pretty off the wall. That one. That's Duncan
Yeah.
Trussell's
What seems
new
right
show.
up your alley with that's the Trussell one.
Yeah, the
that's
animation
weird
one.
stuff.
Yeah.
It's pretty wild. It's like a heavy dose. Like you can. For me, I could only take it in dosages. Like I had to get 2 episodes. I don't think you're able to binge it. It's just so intense.
And the one guy started an offshoot, right? The one creator, now he's got a new show that just came out too, I think. I don't know what it's called, but
Oh, really? Oh.
yeah, the one guy, I don't know. I think it's the one guy that does the voices. I don't know. I have no idea, but there is a new one. I saw it on Hulu or something. But yeah, Rick and Morty's funny. I like how they implement a lot of like science and like quantum physics type things and just things that you wouldn't see in like a normal cartoon.
Yeah.
Actually,
Yeah.
Futurama was a little ahead of its time in terms of I love Futurama. I mean, I like The Simpsons too, but I think Futurama really hit the nail on the head.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of them. Maybe I'll dive into that next because I never really dug in so much. But what I've seen, I've liked.
Yeah, it's some good stuff. Even if you go back and watch the older ones, it's not like, oh, this is rough to watch. It's still pretty good. But the comedy thing is definitely picked up over the years, though. I mean, I remember, obviously you watch Rogan and then you get introduced to all these different people. But now it's like I watch Tiger Belly, which is Bobby Lee's. I think Bobby Lee's super funny. He's one of the funniest people out there. I'm surprised he doesn't even have a stand-up special, but I like that one, and I like what's the new one? I like Santino's Whiskey Ginger.
Oh yeah. That's good.
Yeah. So I mean, I definitely love all those guys. They do good stuff. I like the New York guys too, but it's like I like the Legion of Skank guys and like who's the other guy? Mark Norman just came out with a new special today. That was super.
Oh yeah, Mark Norman. It's lunch, baby. Hey,
Yeah.
I'm a programmed comedy robot. Ah.
He does talk
Give
like
me a
that.
joke. Oh my God, yeah, he is. He's like that. I used to see him around a bunch in New York, and Tim Dillon is a guy
I love Tim
who's
Dillon.
cracking me up
Yeah.
lately, man. And he's another New York guy, and he was on Rogan. Dude, I don't know. Rogan's like, even like when Norman was on and when Dylan was on, like some of the jokes just fly over Rogan's head nowadays.
Yeah.
Like it's like he's not picking up on
He's
Joe.
old.
You're getting old, Joe.
Well, I just think he's got his hand in so many different things, in terms of like he probably wants to spend a lot of time with his family and also do like the hunting thing and also do the MMA thing and also do it's just at some point you're gonna. I mean, we've all been there where we've extended ourselves so far that it's like something's lacking. But
yeah, but he's got all those clones, him and Elon
Right.
cloning peas. Yeah, Rogan's probably got like 10 clones of him. So I don't know how he does all the shit that he does. It's crazy.
well, I think a lot of people though with the whole Rogan thing is that they liked it better when he was talking about pyramids and aliens and all that, and I loved it too. That's how I got into his show, because that's what we talk about on our show, and that's actually that was how we got into. Like, I'm like, I want to do a podcast, but I want to do it only on the topics that I like, that like Rogan does, or Duncan Trussell, or all these different guys.
No
that
MMA.
Yeah, like just not
right. No MMA.
I like comedy. I like all that stuff, but I want to do just these interesting topics, the ones that I would only want to listen to. So that was kind of
right. Like 2014, 15, he would have like Graham Hancock and Rupert Shelton. They would come on, blow your mind with some crazy shit, and those were fun.
Yeah, he started to turn. There's an interesting. I think there's like one episode where I remember thinking he's starting to change his views, which was the Andrew Weil. Or
Andrew Weil.
Yeah, Andrew Weil. And it's just like, because Andrew Weil was talking about like taking LSD when he was younger, and possibly that helping the pigmentation so he could then get like tan, because he never was able to get tan to that point until he had that experience or something along those lines. And he thought that you could do tests on this, and then you just hear Rogan and he's like, what's your proof of that? Has this been scientifically proven, or has this been peer reviewed and stuff like that? So
he's shuffling through his notes that the CIA gave him. He's like,
exactly.
Hold on, let me.
Bro.
We're not supposed to say that.
I
CIA, Joe Rogan's infiltrated the.
But I do like now he's just seems like he has like a lot of his friends and comedy people on, which I like too. But yeah, that was kind of the catalyst, was having all these interesting esoteric and psychedelic and ancient civilization and all that that was all my favorite stuff. So but yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I mean, people get older, people change their mind. I mean, my personal thoughts on life and point of view has definitely changed. Has yours, since you've done your podcast, in terms of talking with people and just changing your point of view on what's going on?
Oh yeah, that's such a good point. That's an important point, actually, that you just brought up. That's, people do change their views, and as you get older and things change in your life, you look at things differently. So yeah, I mean, that's probably what's going on with Joe. But yeah, definitely, I feel like I'm changing all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
well, you should be. That's the progression of life. You should be, moving forward, bettering yourself. Because if you're stagnant, that's just death. So.
That's right. Yeah, totally. It is. I feel like it's easy though to get stuck in those places sometimes, but I think, people like us are trying to constantly, have conversations, learn new things, like, keep moving and growing. Some people just get stuck and they're just like, they're 45, but they're still 18,
Right. Yeah. I and the reason why I point that out is because, like, okay, so I mean, I'm fascinated with like consciousness and, free will, determinism, mind, matter, philosophy, like all those things. So when you study those things that were kind of a mystery before were just you not knowing enough about certain topics. And to your point about what's going on in the DMT realm with the entities, does that matter if you're still having that experience? Well, I think for when you're trying to figure out your philosophy or how you approach life, I think it does matter to a certain point. So I said, I always talk about like how when we started, the fringe was huge. It's like, oh, this person could have built the pyramids, or this, but then you start to whittle it down. You start to do more research, and things that were plausible before are no longer plausible, but maybe it opens up other doors that are smaller. So I keep saying, like, the more I research, the fringe gets smaller, but it's still real and it's still there. It's just not, you can whittle out the BS.
Yeah, it's interesting. You're right. It kind of shrinks in, and you're able to kind of hone in, and then you find something else within that space that like mutates and pops out, and now there's like a whole new Rorschach painting in front of you, and you're like, oh my god, all right, there's all this new stuff.
Right.
So yeah, it's like never ending trapdoors and rabbit holes, and it's fun for sure. Yeah.
Did you get into psychedelics at like an early age, or like high school, or like when did you first start experimenting?
Yeah, high school. I mean, definitely. But I didn't really understand what they were, and they were just kind of drugs. They were just like getting high, just getting fucked up. Like that's kind of what they were a part of for me. So it wasn't until later on in life that I started reading a little bit more and finding out the truth about it, like you just said, right? Like it's you find out, oh wait, they were testing this stuff at Harvard. Like, wait, this was invented by a well-respected chemist. Like, this is, you start finding out all these things, and it lessened that sort of dare fear thing that we were exposed to as kids, and then I started doing them more of in more of an intentional way, and with more like reverence and respect for them. So around like my 20s, that's when that happened. Yeah.
I mean, if you do them in high school, I think most people have that experience where it's like for me, the first time I tried mushrooms, it was because I felt there was no peer pressure. I actually did it alone. I was able to get my hands on a couple G's, and I actually stayed the night at Maurice's house. And I think we were like 15, maybe, I don't know. And maybe 14. And I just remember thinking like there's more than this. There's more to life, that kind of a thing. There's like I want to see what's going on, and it just the first experience kind of changed my view on that. Now I wasn't mature enough to kind of put it into perspective, but I did know that this was a powerful thing. This is not something that you just go to like a high school party and do. You probably look like a weirdo unless everybody was doing it. So
it's amazing like what your life circumstances and conditions like led you to have that peek behind the curtain, at that age. I find it fascinating that how do we know, when are we ready for that information to seep through? Are we ever ready? For me, I was just slamming all kinds of psychedelics and drugs in my face and drinking beers. I wasn't ready to receive that message at that point. So it's interesting. I wonder like what life circumstances and what things that you were exposed to, what was in your reality tunnel that was allowing that insight to occur. It's
me and Michael were reading the electric Kool-Aid acid test. I think we were juniors. I don't know if you've ever read that book, but just reading something like that and seeing how these people were taking taking LSD and then having this collective consciousness. We were also, heavily into jam bands or, improvisational rock and roll, and getting together in that atmosphere and kind of feeling that collective consciousness. So we knew there was something there. We knew there was something true to this whole taking a substance and leaving your norm, but then it took a while to really understand what truly that was. So
yeah, nice.
I think the interesting thing about that is we did have kind of like an earlier like a knowledge of kind of like this like counterculture thing at that age where you don't really. Most people we talked to just took these things as drugs, but we were, like we're into jam bands, we were musicians, we're into Fish, Grateful Dead. So there's this almost like esoteric or occult nature to it that we were aware of, reading, like he said, Electric Kool-Aid Acid Test and Fear and Loathing and like all these different counterculture and psychedelic books. And even the people that we were listening to, like Fish and even Fish, like Oysterhead, the band, they talking about John C. Lilly and songs. So it's like, who's John C. Lilly? And we look it up like, holy shit. Like this is like the late 90s, early 2000s where there's not really a lot of stuff. There's no internet to connect with people about these kinds of things, So, it's crazy to see how far things have come.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah.
So like, what was roughly how old are you? You're in your 30s, 40s, early 30s?
Yeah, 30. I'm in my 30s. Yeah. 30. I'm 35.
Yeah, same here. We're
beautiful.
We're both Mike. We're
all the same
We're both
age.
Italian. Yeah.
There we go. Yeah.
But I so you have almost the pretty close perspective, except maybe growing up elsewhere, of these things. So what was your go-to resource back in the day? Was it Irwoods, or what were you looking at to get your information?
Well, back when I was in like high school.
Yeah, like that, or did you not?
Oh, dude, I wasn't. No, I was, I was
learning as he went.
Yeah, I was just living like there was no tomorrow.
He was Hunter S. Thompson, man.
I mean, yeah, I really, I didn't have such a great home life. There was a lot of trouble at home, and I didn't like school. So I definitely medicated, I guess, in the way that I knew how, which was to go out, party, chase girls, do drugs, get fucked up, make people laugh, pull pranks, get into trouble. Just basically, yeah, just do a lot of crazy shit. And that was my whole life, was like, what am I doing this weekend, or what am I doing tomorrow? I wasn't really interested in anything other than just like partying and having a good time. When I was in high school and pretty much like half of college.
Yeah, I mean, it's just weird. I mean, because we have so many friends that went different ways, that liked psychedelics and they got into harder stuff, or then, that whole thing. And we actually have had a lot of friends that have been kind of, at the mercy of the opioid thing. But I'm sure people as well.
Yeah, totally.
But it's I think that when you look at the movement going on now, I think it's good because, I mean, with all the mental health stuff and all the addiction and PTSD and all these different things, I think MAPS just released something too. It said like they had like 90% success rate with MDMA and PTSD, which is amazing. So yeah, I mean, it's just crazy. It's just to think we always would joke about like pot being legal now. Where I'm in Chicago or Illinois, it's legal. It's legal in Michigan. It's legal where you are in Denver.
They were the head of the whole thing.
Yeah, to even think of that, it was even possible back in the day. I mean, it was always like a pipe dream. No pun intended.
I think mushrooms are legal in Colorado, aren't they?
Yeah, they're decriminalized. Yeah, so personal possession. You can grow them. Have your own personal amount, and it's great.
That's sweet.
Yeah, it's fucking great. Actually, it was about this time last year when the initiative went through. We had a watch party for it, and the initial results weren't looking good. And I remember we went out to like a somber lunch the next day with Ryan Maneuver of Decriminalized California. He was up here and a couple other people, and we were just like, what are the next steps? Like, what are we gonna do? And then like a bolt of lightning, like the results came in and it passed like midday, because all the news outlets were reporting. The first news was that it didn't pass, and then it passed, and it's been great. I mean, it's just a lot of people are learning how to grow. My friend Travis has this organization that he heads up called the Denver the Mushroom Co-op, the Denver Mushroom Cooperative, and so people are learning how to grow and cultivate, and just it's really wonderful. Good atmosphere here. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and it's all these things. It's weird because there are a lot of people talking about these things, but not to go back to Rogan, but you look at like all Joe Rogan has to do is have Paul Stamets on, and then it's like everybody's talking about mushrooms, which is awesome, and I think that that's what these platforms are supposed to be used for, is to get like unique and alternative ideas out there, get people talking, get people thinking, and let's push the ball, down the field a little bit and see where it goes. You can always pull things back if need be, or it doesn't, go the way we expect it or whatever, but at least you got to try, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's what I love most about podcasts and YouTube channels, and just anywhere anybody's creating anything where there isn't a gatekeeper or people telling you what you can and can't, that kind of crap. I'm so that's over with. So yeah, I mean, Rogan's done so much for like everything, like where we are right now. It's amazing what his show has been able to do. Yeah.
And even he still promotes all that stuff. Even like we said, he doesn't talk about a lot of that stuff. He still promotes those ideas, and he still has all the psychedelic people on. But I think when you look at like other topics as well, like consciousness and stuff like that. So do you think about those things? Because you mentioned you're not really into like the research side of things necessarily, but like when you have these crazy experiences, whether it's like mystical or something you can't explain, do you try and put it into like scientific terms ever, or is it just something like it is what it is kind of a thing?
Yeah. I was just watching a comedian. I forget who it was the other day. It was like, "It is what it is." Oh, it was the new Jerry Seinfeld special. I'm a big Seinfeld fan. His new special is not so great, but he had a couple of hits. I mean, yeah, he's just this weird thing now where he's like, everybody's worried about where the phone's going.
Yeah, it's a caricature of himself.
Totally, exactly. Yeah, it's like he's doing him an impression of him, of Jimmy Fallon doing him. That's like, it's a, yeah. But yeah, no, I do like to find out what is happening, and like, what the Beckley Foundation is doing, and Imperial College and Hopkins, and I know a lot of people working in those spaces, and so it's fascinating to always see what's happening there. But I think for myself, I don't like to bring too much into my experience, and I don't like to try and reduce it to too much outside objective scientific material so much, so I'll give you an example. I guess, like, when I found out about ayahuasca, I found out through Rogan. I remember him having Aubrey Marcus on, and Aubrey's talking about these dragons and this thing and these stuff, and it's like that sort of, in my opinion, I don't necessarily really tell too many stories on my show of the trips that I've had and stuff like that, because I think it's tricky, because then you bring that into the experience, and that sort of colors the experience and shapes the experience to be molded in somebody else's way, or it sets you up for expectations like, man, I didn't see any dragons, like, this is bullshit, all I got was like deep childhood trauma healing. Fucking bullshit.
Right.
All I did was uncover the truth about where all my pain and suffering comes from, but I didn't see any elves. Bullshit. Yeah. So I like the model of I guess it would be Gabor Mate's model of compassionate inquiry, and a big proponent of the integration. There's a lot of great people that do work with that, and so I guess if anything, I'm more inclined to go in a therapeutic route, than a scientific one. Although they're kind of related, they kind of mingle. But I always try and make sense of my experience in terms of what it means to me. I think psychedelic experiences are very similar to dreams. In a way where there's things that are happening in ourselves, how we perceive the world, the sort of totality of our entire human experience comes together in symbolic and linguistic forms and colors and sounds and pictures. As Campbell says, like, a lot of the dreams that we have are conflicts of energy within the body. And so, same thing with Carl Jung, who he got a lot of that stuff from, is that it's trying to sort of interpret the symbols and the meaning. What does it mean to you? What is the significance of this to you? And sometimes you don't know, and then you seek outside counsel. And if the person's good, they allow you the space for that to unfold and to come to life in your own understanding of it.
Sure, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Well said, sir.
Yeah, see, for me it's different. I'm freaking plagued by this. I have this, like, do you watch It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, or have you seen it? There's like an episode where Charlie's got this like board, and he's putting all these pieces together. I feel like that's how my mind is, where I'm always trying to like make connections and learn new things and try and like, what does that mean in the scheme of this and that, and all those kinds of things. So it's like I can't get out of that in my own head, but
well, that's how I used to be, and now I just go, I don't even think our pea brains can understand what this all is, so I'm just going to stop.
I mean, yeah, that's a good point of view. But
but that's interesting, like how you're saying, like, what does this mean what did you say, in relation to things? Like what?
Yeah, well, so like I consider myself like a big picture kind of like I always look at things from like the bigger picture. So it's like, the reason why, we don't, on your podcast, you have more of like a defined theme throughout, this cognitive liberty and psychedelics and stuff. Sometimes I feel like we're really scattered, because we could do one episode on like ancient Greece philosophers, and then the next one's on psychedelics, and then the next one's on aliens, and then, so it's like we're kind of all over the place. And that's kind of what's going on in my mind is like, how do these pieces fit together? And you mentioned Jung. There's a lot of that stuff having to do with Jung, and even late in his career life. He's got into the whole UFO subject a little bit too. But, it's just one of those things where it's like, what do all these things, what's the teleological point? Like, how does this all fit together? Does it even fit together? Is this something that we created where purpose is a creation of mankind? So maybe it doesn't necessarily mean anything, but in a way it would still mean something because we're still here, you're still living. So it's, there's a lot of contradictory thoughts even within, some of those thoughts. Sorry for the little rant there, but yeah, that's just kind of.
No, yeah, I'm glad. That's great. I love what you're saying, because I operate in a very similar way too. Yeah, I do, and I think that it's fun and it's interesting to go and try and connect dots and connect pieces. And I love how you just brought up, Carl Jung getting into the UFO stuff. I think his last book he published might have been on that. Mm-hmm. I forget, but Daniel Pinchbeck wrote a book about the occult control system, is what he called it. His most recent book. He brings up Jung and a lot of other interesting thinkers like Rudolf Steiner and Gurdjieff and some other people that talking about these kind of the UFO phenomena, because I think it's a good thing to bring up, because it's like, is it real? What is it? What's going on? People say similar to the psychedelic experience almost in a way, right. And it can be interpreted in that lens as well, that it's just this kind of like psycho spiritual phenomena that is occurring in some strange way. So I love getting into that. And then what does that mean? And how does that mold the current paradigm of thought and exploration in our time, and what does it mean for who we are and why we're here? So I love going down all those rabbit holes, I guess, dare I say rabbit holes, because you can really go down. I mean, there's been times where I've been on benders just reading and looking at things and find, I'm foaming at the mouth, lying on the floor, just like, oh man, it's Illuminati,
just quaking.
Yeah, I mean, it's right now it's interesting. I mean, UFO Twitter's been on fire, the Pentagon acknowledging that those 3 videos are real. So it's like, what does that mean? Now, and we've got, it's not just that our last episode, we had Sean Cahill on, who was an eyewitness. He was on the USS Princeton, which was the ship next to the USS Nimitz where all that stuff was going on. So, I mean, it's not the videos, it's the eyewitness accounts. And so, like, what does that all mean? I always thought all these things were consciousness related, but then it's like you get this FLIR radar image of these things now. So what does that mean if there's
some kind of material presence of these things?
So I do find all that stuff interesting. And what you were talking about, like, what does that mean to us? I mean, I think it means a lot if we can figure out, even if we figure it out in our lifetimes in the next 20 years, that we for sure are not alone. I mean, is there a bigger paradigm shift that we can think of, So, I mean, I'm open to whatever. I just follow what I think is truth. So there's some days I believe in a lot of things, and then there's other days I believe in nothing, and it's all determinism. And then I watch a show like, I don't know if you've seen it, but Devs, it's this new show on FX.
I've heard of it, yeah.
Fucking unbelievable. Everybody needs to go watch Devs. It's on Hulu, but it's on, it's on FX, the channel too, if you have cable. Go watch the show. I mean, it's all about like determinism and free will and stuff like that, but it's just a fantastic show, and it's well made. So highly recommend
Nick Offerman's in it.
Yeah, he's good. He's the main dude.
Nice.
But yeah, so what do you think though about the whole UFO stuff? And I'm sure you've had weird experiences in psychedelic mode too, where maybe you didn't see UFO, but maybe there's something like alien in nature. Do you believe that there is some sort of presence, whether it be interdimensional or from a different universe, or do you think that that's all just part of this consciousness weirdness that we're trying to figure out?
Well, I saw a UFO when I was 13.
Okay.
So it was, summer night, me and my friends playing basketball, like late into the night, and standing on the edge of my friend's driveway, just hanging out, and someone noticed something in the sky, and it looked like a star, but the way it moved, it was insane. I mean, I've never, seen anything like that before in my life. It just kind of darted across the sky, stopped, and like darted back, like extremely fast, stopped on a dime, and made these zigzaggy type darts, and then it just vanished.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So what is, I don't know what that is. Like, what is that? Is it like a collective
This was
hallucination?
New York?
Yeah, in the suburbs of New York. So it is, to me, it's an unidentified object in this. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's this kind of like psychic phenomena of a collective consciousness that's like been primed and conditioned to see something, and pattern recognition, and we're supposed to be alert for danger, so we project this, that, whatever, or if it's actually little, gray aliens like in their ship popping in, or if it's a multi-dimensional sort of, I don't know.
Right.
I don't know.
Or is it us from the future? We got to get them all out there.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. Is it the Pleiadians coming here? Is it the reptilian? Who is it? But yeah, I totally. I believe that. What is it? What does the Joker say in The Dark Knight? He's like when you.
My father.
Yeah, well, he's like things get stranger. I forget the exact line, but yeah, it's just like reality. Like, this is strange. We live in a fucking strange place, and so I'm willing.
Don't you wake up? You're like, this is magic. Like, we're living, breathing. Like, think about what we are. We are the product of stars. Like, we exist because stars exist. We're dust. We're cosmic dust that somehow came together in specific patterns, and we're here, whether it's gravity that put us, in these patterns or whatever you want to say. But I mean, I'm just saying, like, that's when there's days where I'm feeling optimistic, where I'm like, we're fucking magic,
Totally.
And then there's days where it's like, we're just we're just a pile of shit.
Yeah, we're animals.
Yeah, exactly.
We're no better than worms.
We're just smart. But then look at what we, like my wife and I earlier before we got on here, she wanted to start rewatching Chernobyl, which we'd already seen once, but it was so good she wanted to watch it again. And if we're capable of splitting an atom, containing it, getting tons of energy from it, and then also blowing this thing up and ruining ourselves too. It's just like this, we have this crazy power that I don't even think we know that we have. And I think that that's part of the problem, is that we're not aware of our own, not even like footprint, but we're just like, we wield so much more power than we think we do. It's crazy.
Yeah, no, totally. You're right about that. It's, are you familiar with the Fermi paradox?
Yeah.
So that's what one of the points that he makes is that it's like, where is this intelligent life? These stages of beings, like they either got to a point where they don't want to venture, or they got to a point where but the one that it's like you get to a point where you advance your technology so much, but your sort of consciousness advancement is not matching it, and you blow yourself. I mean, every empire that's existed has done that. They've like collapsed from within and been dismantled from without. And it's just like, that's what we do. We erect things, we build things, we create things. And then, so maybe we're at an interesting stage right now where we have a choice to take a look around and say, like, do we want to, keep this game going? Or
well, here it's funny that you say that, because when all this stuff started to happen, it's like, I mean, I can deal with it, because like I said, I'm a creative person. I can find ways to keep myself busy, so it's not like, I'm not missing going to the office, or I'm not missing doing what I was doing necessarily. But at the same time, you're right. I was just thinking to myself, this is so fragile. Like, the way that all these systems, it's like the food supply, and then this, and then the power supplies, and then you have to think about like all these different things. And each one has a severe effect on the other one, or a massive effect. And it's just so fragile. It's more fragile than people think. And I think that you're right. We're at this stage where it's like, I mean, looking at ancient civilizations, the Greek, empire, the Roman Empire, and just build these amazing ways of life, and then they find ways to just like kind of let it go. And right now I think we have to fight to keep what we have pretty much going. And I think that we're against a silent enemy that nobody understands. And I think that we're in a tough spot as people, humans. So I think that it's up to us now to kind of figure out this riddle, and keep it moving.
Icarus, bro. Icarus.
Yeah, we might have, with all this genetic engineering and CRISPR and all this stuff, I mean, we are flying pretty close to the sun. I mean, there's no way to even dispute that, I don't think.
Yeah. I think from, the beginning of civilization, every person that's been attracted to power has wanted to reshape the world in their image, and also, defy God God, whatever, wanting, defy mortality and live on in infamy in some sort of way. And I think now maybe that there's a possibility for people to do that. And yeah, I think it all comes down to like, what do we want? What do we want to do? Where are we going? What are we building? What are we trying to do? All these fragile systems that you mentioned, they're all held together. They're all they're concrete in the fact in which they function,
right,
and they manifest things in the material world in which we live in. But they're all abstract in the sense that they're held together by belief,
right,
by our collective belief in them. We believe these things, that believe in this way and in this way of doing things and these systems. And it's like Douglas Rushkoff, he talks about how do we want to, we don't want to be slaves to technology. We don't want to work for the machine. We want the machine to work for us so we could be more human, so that we could have the things that we've desired having since we came out of the caves, mm-hmm. which is more efficient ways to do things, more leisure time, things like that. And so, yeah, we have to this is a great time, I hope, for people to pause and reflect and say, where do we want to go and what do we want to do and why,
Yeah, and even you have, I forget the guy's name, but the guy that wrote the book, he's been on Rogan too, and just talking about how we're stuck in these jobs, and that's the reason why there's so much depression. It's like you're forced to go to this shitty job and listen to your boss talk a bunch of shit, while you're just trying to do your job and make a living and just scrape by. And that's why there's so many people depressed. There's so many people unhappy because you're not living. Is it Noel Harari?
Oh, Harari?
Yeah.
Sapiens?
Yeah. Or maybe, is it that one, or is it, I always get, there's another guy with a similar name. It could be the other book too, where he's talking. It could be Sapiens, though. I forget. Anyways, actually, I've read, it's been a long time since I've gotten into Sapiens, but so yeah, it's just one of those things where, I don't know. I think that we're in uncharted territory, and it's going to be interesting to see, where this all goes. I think if businesses are smart, you could cut the overhead by just having, if you can work from home, work from home.
Well, they already said that's going to happen.
But why not? Isn't that the case already? I mean, that's just, it seems basic to me, that would be the option. I mean, if you can work remotely, do it. So.
Yeah, I mean, I would challenge the very notion of that particular kind of work to begin with anyway, right? It's like, I think that one of the authors I mentioned is Charles Eisenstein, who's written a lot of books that I like. One of them that comes to mind is The More Beautiful World Our Hearts Know Is Possible, and David Graeber, who wrote Bullshit Jobs. And, it's I think the reason why a lot of people are depressed and they feel, there's a lot of dis-ease and anxiety and things like that, because we've disempowered ourselves a lot. We've given our power away to larger entities and institutions, whether it be Amazon or your job or the government or the bank or whatever it is. The average person doesn't know how to really do basic kind of human things. I mean, I don't know how to grow my own food. I don't, so when shit hits the fan, and people are scared, they want to be taken care of. But that sort of perpetuates this old system that I kind of think has, we've reached a point. It's like, do we want to be the Ray Kurzweil singularity, matrix world, or do we want to maybe think of better ways where we can utilize technology and we can have all the cool things that we enjoy, throw out the things that we don't like, and then integrate some of the old sort of archaic revival notions into a more harmonious existence that makes us feel good about being alive. I think when you have a psychedelic experience, you know, a lot of the common themes are like love and connection and oneness and diversity and novelty and color. It's like, yeah, let's bring that into the world, you know. The default mode network in the brain is quiet. It's making other parts of the brain talk to each other. Let's do that with society. Let's quiet these default mode networks, get people mingling and reclaiming their humanity, what it means to be human. That's sort of where I land with that. So I really would like to reimagine all the kind of concepts in which we've built and that we've become used to.
Sure. Yeah, but I think though too is like that's why these podcasting is important, because you're having a long form, real conversation, and maybe we're not in the same exact place right now, but we're face to face. We're able to see each other and react to each other, and I think that that's what's getting lost more and more is this idea of sitting down and having a real conversation with somebody. And like, you know, I think people miss that, and they take it out, you know, their frustrations on the fact that that doesn't exist anymore by going online and like talking shit to people and commenting and negative stuff. Even you mentioned love and psychedelics. I don't even think that those things go hand in hand. Do you know how many, pieces of shit I've seen on psychedelic forums? It's like, dude, you claim to have had like ego dissolving and, oh dude, I know, you know, I've had so many great experiences and I'm such a psychonaut, but then they like talk mad shit. It's like, you can't, you know, I'll see somebody post one thing and like how amazing their ego death was, and then they're talking shit to other people
Back to the ego.
on other comments. So it's like, that's my biggest problem with that whole thing is I do think psychedelics might have even had a hand in like making us self-aware and bringing introspection and like, I got to get my shit together, you know, even maybe whenever we first started doing them. But I do think that there's some people that don't react that way to them for whatever reason.
Oh yeah,
it's just
totally.
a drug, or it's just doing this, and they don't care about other people regardless of, and I guess that's fine too, but this idea that you can just take these things and then become like an enlightened, nicer soul is, you still have to do work on yourself. You still have to understand your own mind. You still have to understand yourself. And I think that that's where a lot of this stuff gets, and I don't like to rant about it. I do talk about it a lot, but I'm just shocked every time I see that. It's like, if it's one thing if it's political, you kind of expect that, you know, on political posts and people fighting, you know, with one another. But it's another thing to see it in like psychedelic forums and stuff. I just think we all just need to be a little bit nicer. And if you think DMT entities are an external thing and some other guy thinks that it's an internal thing and it's just your brain chemistry or whatever, have an honest conversation about it. There's no reason to call each other names or like shit on each other. So
yeah, totally agree. Yeah, totally agree with you. Yeah, I thought when I first entered into the psychedelic community, whatever that is, I that it would be everyone, you know, on the same page, on the same wave. Yeah, like we've left all the bullshit behind, right. You know, we're, you know, but yeah, no matter like what does Alan Watts say? Wherever you go, there you are. You know, it's like you're there you are. You're everywhere you go. Every situation you get into, every organization, every group of people, there's always going to be the same group of people as the last place that you were at. You know, it's just, we always bring, that's what we do. We humans, we interpret things in different ways and we feel really special and important about them, and we got to convince other people. And but maybe it's just maybe it's a growing phase too. Maybe now, and especially now that
it could be a 19-year-old kid. I don't know the age of some of these people. I'm just seeing what they, you know, they could be, you know. You're right.
No, even in the like it could be young kids and things like that, but it could also be in the sense of humanity in terms of where we are as a species. Like
true.
This is the first time, as far as I know, as far as I'm aware of, in the history books and whatever, that the whole planet is connected, and we have internet and we can see and we can talk to each other and we can go on forums and shit on each other. Like maybe this is just it's a developmental stage in the collective as well. You know. Maybe, maybe not.
Yeah,
maybe we're just shitty people.
I mean, it is this whole thing, this whole phenomenon is new, of being able to connect with people from across the world and listen to all these other viewpoints and stuff like that. So, I mean, you're getting a heavy dose of even a lot of stuff that you might disagree with. So, yeah, I mean, I definitely understand that. But again, it's just like, I don't know, man. I just see like a lot of like nonsense for no reason kind of stuff, and it's just what are you doing? I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Back in the day when I was a little bit younger, I was more hardcore into sports than I am now, and I used to fight with people. You know, oh, this team's, you know, like my team, you know, like that whole thing, and then I would rattle off all the stats and I'll do the whole thing, and it's just I'm like, one day I'm like, what am I doing? I don't even really, whatever. It is what it is.
But I have a theory that makes the game worth playing in a certain kind of way. Like I think that it's almost like we live in this realm of duality.
Exactly.
Yeah. We live in there's this great book I quote it often, Finite and Infinite Games by James P. Carse. It's one of my favorite books, and he says that there's finite games where there's a definitive start and a definitive end, and there's a definitive winner and a definitive loser, but there's the infinite game, which is the game that keeps going. The point of the game is to keep the game going, and the way that I interpret that is like, living in the realm of duality in our lives right now, we are bound by limitations. We're bound. Like, I can't just get up and start flying right now, although that would be awesome. But there's these limitations, and games are fun because they have rules, borders, boundaries, and limitations. And it's fun to go up to the edge of those. But to completely disregard them, then you wind up in the sort of infinite formless realm, which is great too, but it's an entirely different thing. So I think, like, for the infinite game is like, as a human species, like, let's continue this thing. Like, let's see how far we can take it. But within this, there's all these little games that we can get into, which kind of makes it interesting and fun. For some people, that's arguing on the internet. For some people, it's rooting for a sports team. For some people, it's just having like a vigorous debate with a friend or whatever.
It's just weird, man, because I was like one of the most diehard. I could tell you everybody's stats in hockey, football, basketball, baseball. Pretty much that's all I did for a long time. And then I'm just like, it actually, when I started getting into all this stuff, I started to kind of wean out that stuff. I still watch my Red Wings. They suck, but
you're in a new game now, my friend.
Yeah. You can't just buy the Russian 5 and win multiple cups. You got to actually do a little bit of drafting now. But
I was obsessed with that stuff too, man. Like, I was a beer drinking Yankees fan, it was fantasy football, fantasy sports. I knew all the stats. Yeah. Just now I'm not, not so much.
Yeah, it's interesting. It is interesting too that I talked to a lot of people that have a kind of a similar path, where they were like kind of passionate or into something before, and then they got kind of into these topics, and then these topics kind of.
These are more meaningful to you.
Well, they're meaningful, but there's so much to unravel. You almost can never get through it all. As where sports or whatever, there's only so much to. You're like, when's the next game? Because you're waiting for that next dopamine drip. But you can create your own dopamine drip with these topics, because you can literally sit there all day, read new stuff, esoteric stuff, psychedelics, whatever it is. You can keep going deep on these topics, so it's almost like an infinite
right.
Portal.
Yeah, welcome to the infinite game. It's a new one. It's like a new game. It's like, oh, this game's fun.
Right.
Instead of a guy with a stick.
The guy with the stick.
Kevin likes those games.
That'd be great if, like, you smoked DMT and you just went in there and they were like playing baseball. It was just like, they're like, what? We got a stick and we're, what, would you expect some profound thing to happen?
Right.
That's simple.
Yeah. I love talking about things in using the language of games and stories and myths and metaphors. I feel like that's, to me, that's how I like to paint things.
Sure.
In that way. Yeah.
Is there any like?
Are you a big George?
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, are you a big George Carlin fan?
Oh yeah, I love George Carlin. Yeah.
Yeah, he's cool.
He's awesome. Well, he's dead, but he lives on. He lives on for the internet. Yeah.
Is there anything specific in terms of when you're talking about these like myths? Is there like a specific myth or something that you kind of hold true to, or maybe some sort of ancient wisdom or story or something like that?
It's a good question. Yeah, I think that I do really like the. It's hard to pick one, but I guess maybe what I'll say is that Well, I love the myth of Prometheus stealing fire from the gods and bringing it to mankind, and even the biblical story of Lucifer and that whole thing, and I just think that these stories really help us understand who we are and how we think and what we feel for the times in which they are created. I think that Campbell was like a big proponent of saying that there's no unifying myth for our time now. So we have to kind of create a new one.
Sure.
Because the myths of old were for those people in those places for that time to help inform them of the values and the morals of the society and the culture. And I like the idea of creating stories and giving images and characters to our place in time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think
Hero
it's
with 1,000 Faces is actually pretty universal if you go through and look at it, compare it to a lot of the mythology throughout our history.
Yeah, the monomyth. I think that says a lot. Is it Rupert Sheldrake's theory of morphic resonance that is the reason why, or is it the kind of way that we are as human beings, like that we develop these things? That the fact that there's pyramids in Egypt and there's pyramids in Mexico, and this tribe had this myth.
That's an accident, man. That's just because that was the easiest way to build pyramids, is just one block at a time and then up, because that's what archaeologists say, so that's what we should just believe.
There you go.
Now, let me just preface, I don't believe aliens built anything on the planet, because why would you build stuff out of even limestone or crude, tooling marks and stuff like that? If you were some badass alien, you'd be laser cut and stuff. It would be, and while there's a lot of stuff that fits perfectly together, the alien thing I don't believe in. But I do believe that there are lost civilizations and stuff we just don't know about the ancient civilizations and their technology and stuff like that. That I wholeheartedly believe. But yeah, it's that's a fascinating one that we talk about a lot for sure, is the whole megalithic structures and ancient civilizations, and what were these people thinking about, like what were they doing? I mean, yeah. I've never been to the Great Pyramid, but it's on my bucket list, and it's definitely one of the sicker things out there to see for sure.
Yeah, I'm a little. I had a very intense ayahuasca experience that took place in Egypt, which was pretty wild. So I'm and scary. So I was I'm like a little. I would love to go, but I'm a little worried of like what would happen if I went in some weird way. Yeah.
If you have we had one of the listeners of our show reached out and said the first time he didn't have any like knowledge of like Mayan stuff or anything like that, but the first time he smoked DMT, all he saw was like Mayan depictions and glyphs and all these like different iconography and shapes and stuff. Have you do you think that there's anything to that in terms of somebody not being aware of like the civilization stuff, but then somehow smoking or ingesting these drugs and then or these substances and then having these crazy experiences that have almost like a some sort of I don't even know, like an archetype experience or something like that?
Yeah, totally. It's happened to me a bunch.
What do you equate that to, do you think?
I think there's, I think what I believe is that I've been here before, and that maybe not me as who I am, but something, soul or whatever, I think that there's something maybe that activates some dormant, maybe deep in the DNA or something like that activates and comes out. So I think I'm more inclined to go that route, and the other route I would go, which is not as sexy or cool, is that to me at least, which is that these are just, the fact that we live these lives where we're so bombarded with all this stuff and we've taken in so much sensory input data and we can't make sense of it all, so it's just hidden in the back of our subconscious somewhere, and then it comes to light because it's something that we saw on the X-Files or something, and it's like some random thing that you just got a glance of, and it's just all in the recesses of your mind, and then it activates, and that helps you make something that you're personally working through or something. So either or, I'm more inclined to go the route of like maybe reincarnation, soul's path, living out different stories through time and things like that. That sounds more interesting to me.
Yeah, that does sound
I like
interesting.
that.
What about, I thought a good experiment for that would be, have like Mimosa hostilis, which is more Mexico, South America, and then extract, and then have those people test it. People that have never maybe done it before, or just don't have knowledge of like Mesoamerican culture and stuff like that, and then have people do acacia DMT, over in that part of the world, and see if there's a different archetypal experience. Maybe the compound itself has something embedded into it that projects or has some sort of element of what you're seeing based on the genetics of the plant or something like that.
Yeah. Right. Like, I think it's back to that like morphic resonance of the substance. So it's bringing in this kind of shared collective memory, and it's, these things don't produce the effects that we experience them if we don't ingest them. So there's like some kind of symbiotic relationship that we have with them that produces a particular kind of effect. So that's interesting. It's we're bringing something to it, the plant's bringing something to it. Yeah, I had an experience where I just started speaking in Sanskrit, and I didn't know anything about it. Wasn't exposed to it, so that was really interesting. And I definitely am exposed to a lot of Egyptian type symbology and stuff, particularly in ayahuasca experiences. So I don't know. I don't know, but I think the plant, the person, the atmosphere, the energy, the time, like I think it all has something to do with it. Yeah.
Sure.
Obviously. I mean, what else would it be?
Yeah. I mean, well, you think about too, like epigenetics, like could it be somewhere down the line your genetics have experienced something similar and that gets embedded into your memory or your genetic memory, something like that. I could see something like that playing out too. But lots of cool stuff to, dive into with all these kinds of things. I mean, I think that, when you look at where all this is going, I think it's heading in a direction where, you have the medical research, and then you have the people that are like moving legalization along. And then, I mean, I look at ours as like, we're just trying to have intelligent, interesting conversations on these topics. And then hopefully people listen and become more interested in like the esoteric or mystical or even scientific.
Percolate the mind.
Yeah, the scientific nature of some of these things, and it interests them to dig deeper. And I think that's should be the goal with all this stuff too, is have all these different things working together.
Yeah, everybody plays a part, I think that's an important part of the equation, is you have all the elements that you talked about. They're all important. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and the great thing I like about, what you guys are doing, what we do as podcasters is hopefully maybe someone gets exposed to this that would have never gotten exposed to it if they didn't stumble across what you were putting out, at a particular time, or they knew. I'm fascinated by this idea of like the reality bubbles that we live in, and the reality tunnels that we create. So it kind of introducing something new into that equation, I think, is great. And then there's all the other aspects, as you mentioned, which are all equally as important. Yeah.
So before we wrap it up here, so you do your podcast like one episode, is it an episode a week you do?
Yeah, something like that. I usually do a bonus episode for Patreon, and then I'll do a regular episode released, and about once a week. And and then I do these new live shows now that started going down.
Yeah, that sounds cool. Now,
yeah, I was gonna say we actually have a comedy channel too, Fat Earth Comedy, and we've been doing some podcasts while we've been in quarantine.
Go check out if you like Tim Dillon stuff. You'll like because it's like off, it's very off the wall. It's if you're not, if you're like light on the funny bone, I would not check it out. But if you're looking for some grotesque,
we got some raps in there and stuff. But you should pop in for one of our podcasts if you're down. I mean,
I'm down. Yeah,
cool. Yeah, I'll get your information from Mike later.
Nice. Yeah, that sounds awesome.
Yeah, it's right up your alley. I mean, if you like all the stuff that you say you do, you'll definitely like their channel and what they're doing.
I actually don't. I was lying. I don't like it.
Well, it's a nice front.
No, yeah. No, I love it. I love off the walls. I love going absurd and being crazy and getting.
Well, he does this thing where it's called Top Cities, and I don't know if you've been doing it. Obviously, with everything going on, I don't think you are, but when he does these top city things, these people get pissed off in these cities because it's like check out this, and it's showing like the worst features of each city, but it's supposed to be like it's good, almost like one of these travel montages that you see these people on Instagram put out. But it's like of a specific city, and these people get really irritated because
the city I live in, the city council actually got a hold of this thing and they put it on Facebook. They're like, these people are making fun of our town, and we like the city is right next to Detroit, and it's right off of 8 Mile, and the crime is just rampant. Everything I put in there is true, and I show actual sites. It's not like I'm like showing Detroit and saying it's Harper Woods. It's all actually from the city. But yeah, it caused quite the uproar.
Good.
I mean, that's what it's all about. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like
the more uproar, the better.
Exactly. But yeah, no, I'm gonna check out your podcast. I didn't really get a chance to, Michael. I didn't even know we had a guest coming on here till yesterday. But I like your humor and stuff. I'm gonna check your stuff out and leave you some good comments and whatnot.
Well, I'm glad that I like a good when someone's surprised. Yeah, it's good. So
yeah, we only know one comic that from our area is just Dave Landau, right?
Yeah, you ever heard of him?
No.
I think what is he? He does something with like Anthony.
He does that Anthony Cumia show, whatever his name is.
Anthony Cumia. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, he was like after Artie left, he took over as the co-host.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm not familiar with him now.
But we went to we were in high school with him at the same time and stuff. But yeah, he's pretty funny. He's been on like Last Comic Standing and stuff, and he's a pretty funny guy. I don't know if he's out in New York now or whatever, but how's the comedy scene out in Colorado, in Denver?
So, there's some stuff going on. They have one of the best comedy clubs, I think, in the country. I know a lot of comics love coming to do the Denver Comedy Works. Denver Comedy Works. It's a nice club. I've been there, and it's like really they make you put your cell phones in these like pouches when you come in. So there's no distraction, and just the way that it's set up. You want to be in a dark room, the light on the stage, and it's great. And they're
I think I've heard Shab talk about that one because I think he's from that area.
Yeah, I mean he sucks, but other than
I will say, have you seen King of the Steen podcast with Theo Vaughn? I mean, I don't know.
I like Theo,
dude. They make fun of each other the whole time. It's actually pretty funny. Theo is probably one of the funnier, more unique comics that I've heard in a long time. Where he's got like a completely different style than you would. I just don't know anybody that's that weird the way they talk. Like he's got the weirdest words. Like you wouldn't expect people to use these kinds of words in the same sentence, but.
Yeah, Theo's great. Yeah. He's like, yo, she was straight bobcatting you, fool. It's like, bobcat? What are you talking?
And then he has a whole story about he was young, and then there was a bobcat, and that's whole.
Back in Louisiana. Yeah. Theo's great. Yeah.
I saw
comedy's hard. It's like with music, you could hate classical music, but you could respect the music. With comedy, we put a lot of our stuff up on Reddit, and some people enjoy it, and some people destroy you. It's an interesting world out there. I'm sure the stand-up is even more brutal at points.
Well, yeah, Patrice O'Neill, one of my favorite comedians of all time, is dead now. But he said that if you're not making 20% of the room hate you, you're not doing it right.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's something to that,
Yeah, no, I like him. I like him a lot.
You gotta take risks, and you gotta be, do what's original to you, and not everybody's gonna like that, I think that otherwise you wind up like Jimmy Fallon, And I don't really particularly think he's that funny, really. At least right now he's not.
What's the deal?
I can't watch any like these late night talk shows or whatever. That's just all bullshit. Bullshit.
So boring. Yeah. They have got no substance to them whatsoever.
I actually I haven't seen a live comedy show in a while. My wife and I went to go see Tom Segura last winter. And it was like whatever his new special is, the same material, and it was pretty funny. I mean, I had a good time. It was good content. He talked about Theo. He was shitting on like Louisiana half of the time, and but yeah, I mean, it's just I don't know, man. I think comedy is one of those things where it's like we need good comedy right now, and we do have good comedy, and I think it's lucky, that we have all these podcasts and different things to get into, and hopefully when the stuff blows over a little bit more, people can get back to going out to clubs and checking stuff out.
Yeah, there's a great energy about being out in a live show. But some people even I like their podcasting better than their comedy.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, Joey Diaz is a killer, I think, but his podcast moments, his podcast moments are great. Like some people just have great podcast moments, or they're able to
situational comedian.
Yeah. So, but yeah, you're right. I mean, I think that there's so much craziness, and you could get bogged down by the craziness and the seriousness of it all. But really, I mean, it's all absurd. I mean, what the it is. I mean,
life's absurd, and you got to laugh at it. If you can't do that, then you might as well.
If you can find the lighter side of things, I think you're going to have a better experience in life. And that's not to say that like, hey, my dad just died. Ha ha, fuck him. He's in the ground. It's like, but bring a sense of wit and whimsy and levity. Like I love Alan Watts. I'm a big fan of Alan Watts, and he referred to himself as a stand-up philosopher, because he injected a lot of humor into it. So I think anybody, even people like spiritual teachers like Ram Dass and people like that, anybody that can really talk about serious things and also bring a lightness and humor to it, I think they're on the right track. At least the one that I want to be on. Yeah.
Did you ever watch that? What's it called on Netflix? Wild Wild Country, about the whole Osho. Mm-hmm. Dude, that's probably one of the best made documentaries I've seen in a long time. It was the Duplass brothers or whatever. Those guys can make a freaking documentary, man. That thing was that was a badass. The music, that got me into a whole genre of music. 'Cause I'm into jam bands and stuff, but that soundtrack, I listen to that thing all the time. It's just like singer-songwritership, but the music that they picked out for it's perfect, and the way the music hits on certain parts and stuff like that, it's just amazing. But what I was going to ask you, what was your take on that? Because there's a lot of people that are like, oh, Osho, he's the greatest, and then there's people like, oh, this guy's running a sex cult. I feel like there's maybe a little bit of both. Like, yeah, he had some ancient wisdom, but he was also manipulating people, doing on his own trip.
Yeah, well, it inspired me to start my own cult. So I learned a lot.
Where's the Kool-Aid, bro? Let's get going here.
What do you call your members?
The Mikeadelites.
Ooh,
nice.
Yeah. No, yeah, I think that Abby, everything's a cult. Everything's a sex cult.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like,
but when you got everybody wearing the same things and people are plowing each other in the streets and no regard for any sort of I don't
the uniformity.
Yeah.
That's where I draw the line. You gotta no. But I think it is interesting, right? Because I think it paints this picture of, I think with so many things that we've been talking about tonight, it's like there's a general perception that most people, and I brought up stories, like we want a hero, a villain, we want a great ending, and we want to paint things in this black and white way, in this good and bad way, and I think it's always more complex than that.
Oh,
there's always more nuance in that. So that
bring my catchphrase out.
Yeah, do it.
Yeah, bring it out. Yeah.
The truth always lies somewhere in the middle.
We did an episode on ancient Greece, and I was talking about like Aristotelian philosophy and how Aristotle is always about the gray in the middle, and it really sang to Maurice.
Yeah,
in fact, I have a t-shirt
it is truth, though. I mean, if you can go back and look at a lot of Aristotle's philosophies, I mean, they still hold true to this day. So, I mean, yeah, I think that the truth is somewhere in the middle, but I think that it's us trying to connect it. It's like, what's the medium or what's the connecting? There might not be an objective truth, but objective truth would be us all kind of meeting in this middle.
Yeah, well, I mean imagine that would be great. Like if we could all meet in the middle.
Ideally, yeah. I mean, I'm saying like that would be the
yeah, that would be the ideal. Yeah, and I think that also it's like there's always these, whenever you have an intention for something, for example, like the Osho group, I'm sure that the intentions were probably good at the beginning, and then they get hijacked and and interpreted and in different ways, and other people start making rules, and they're just like, chaos ensues. I always think of like Apple. When they first came out, they had this ad, 1984, we're taking down Big Brother, IBM,
right.
We're the little guy. Now they're now they've become that thing.
Right.
Like you either live long enough to be the hero, or what is it? You either live long enough to see yourself become the villain, or you die a hero.
Yeah.
Or whatever. I think I butchered that, but yeah, I mean, I look at like the United States government. It's like, hey, this was a great idea. Let's give states autonomy, and we'll be this arbitrary. And now it's like, we're far away from those principles. So yeah,
well, now it's an experiment, right? Things. Now everything that's separated, now you're getting to see all that unfold. It's like some states want to open, others are going to hold back, and I guess it's almost like an experiment, like anything else. Some states, it's legal to smoke weed. In other states, you still go to jail. So it's crazy to think about. But you're right. I mean, that even goes back to what you're saying with like, Plato said the only person qualified to be king is like a philosopher king, like Socrates, because he knows what he doesn't know. And there's a lot of people that know things or come off as knowing things, but in reality, what have they actually contributed, or what have they actually thought out, or are they just part of this mechanism that's gotten out of hand? So
yeah, I love that you brought that up, man, because I've recently come around more to that Plato, that way of thinking, because I used to believe in just anarchy, and everybody just make their own decisions, and we don't need any leaders or whatever. But you really do. You need wise people.
Sure.
The people that are wise are the people that we look to, the people that you want to have on your podcast and stuff. Like the people that we look up to, they're not these people that we cast into the political spectrum of things. It's also the people that would never want to be in those positions. They're like Rick Strassman, like he would. I don't think he would want to be president. He'd be like, dude, I want to do my research. Like, but I'm sure he's got some valuable wisdom. I'm sure that he could probably.
Dude, he is zen from talking to him. I'm like, the way he talks in his cadence, he's like, you feel like you're talking to like a Buddhist monk. Like that's just how he comes off.
Right. Yeah. So in my opinion, it's like we need this like diverse group of people coming together from all walks of life, from all disciplines, from all areas to like make some kind of a better world, because a lot of people, you look at politics, and not to get into politics, but just everybody's a fucking lawyer. Everyone's a lawyer. It's like we have lawyers running the show, and you know how they are. They're swindlers and shysters.
Yeah.
Better call Saul, folks.
Who's that?
I don't know. We'll have to find
Saul
out
Good,
next time.
Man.
Oh yeah, nice.
No, it's Saul. Better Call Saul's a off-spin show from Breaking Bad. It's Saul.
Yeah,
Good.
Better Call Saul. Yeah.
But yeah,
I watched the first season.
It's dude, this latest season's pretty good. You should check it out for sure. But yeah, I mean that makes a lot of sense. We do need wiser people in charge. We don't ever talk about politics on our show, because the whole philosophy of our show was, when we started it, was to get away from like, dude, Facebook and just like family members fighting and friends fighting, and just when all this stuff went down, it's like you really get to see who people are, and some people couldn't handle it, and just like this whole, and I know people think it's the end of the world, but we're all still here, and now we have to deal with a real problem that isn't who do you like better, or whose policies, or for the most part, day-to-day life's been pretty much the same. So when people freak out, it's it's this thing where it's like they're latching. They want that dopamine drip that we want on all these other topics that we're fascinated with. That's their dopamine drip, is the politics, and I think people just get sucked into it. It's like, pick up your phone, what's on the news, what's on Twitter, on Facebook, and most of it's politics. So if that's what there is, you have all the people participating in that. So it's like, how do we get people away from that? Not to not talk about politics, but to talk about politics from more of like a philosophical and educational and intellectual standpoint, where you're not just thinking in these binary terms. It's either this way or that way, and if you don't believe this way, you gotta believe that way, and if you don't believe, you're an asshole if you believe this. And I just think that was the whole point of us starting this, was let's talk about ancient, let's talk about the things that matter. Why are we here? What do we know? Like, what's the purpose? Like,
great. Yeah.
That's what brings us all together, right? Is just those topics. It's not politics. That definitely divides us all.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's. I think that, to circle back to maybe something that we talked about in the beginning with the research of psychedelics and the therapeutic and scientific value of it and things like that, is really, I think that a lot of what we see in the outside world is a projection of what is going on in our inside world. And a lot of people have trauma. A lot of people have, there's a lot of problems within. And when we see something that we can project that onto and attach onto, that feels like we have some kind of channel, an outlet, some kind of purpose, some kind of meaning. And so, yeah, maybe the key to sort of us getting together to be in this middle ground, to talk intelligently and have healthy discourse and debate, comes from more access to psychedelics and therapeutic, more alternative healing modalities, and getting people proper integration and therapy. I mean, I think that the whole world has PTSD. Is like you almost have to live in this crazy, chaotic world that we have. So rather than maybe projecting and spewing all of our shit, we'll go inside. We'll be able to come to the table a little bit more balanced. Maybe. Well,
that's the hope, right? Or that's the goal.
That'd be nice. Yeah.
It would be very nice. I think that let's shoot for that. Like, I mean, it doesn't hurt, right? I mean, like I said, we can go down this path, and if something comes up and something's no bueno, or part of it, or one substance, or whatever the case may be, you figure it out, and you go from there. So I think that people are just scared of what they don't know, and this is something new, and you'll always have a little bit of a pushback, but we just got to keep having the conversations and let everybody play their part and let the thing unfold.
Yeah, scared of themselves.
Yeah.
Really is that that's what it comes down to, and I've been there. There's been, there were parts of myself I didn't want to look at. I mean, still to this day, I'm still, I go on healing journeys with psychedelics. Like it's hard to confront yourself in the complete truth of who you are and where you've been and that, so that would be a major step for the masses of society, and to confront the inner demons, to confront the truth, because what we're seeing right now is the resistance. If you're having a challenging psychedelic experience, it's most likely because you're running from something, or you're not, you're resisting, and what resists persists, and that sort of thing. So yeah, I hope that there's more of an openness to other ways of approaching life and new kinds of healing modalities, which is interesting because this pandemic, they've deemed certain businesses essential and other ones not. Chiropractors, Reiki healing people, acupuncture, non-essential, right? But these are certain kinds of modalities that people feel gives them a sense of healing.
Cannabis shops are still open here, I'm pretty sure.
They're
booming, here. Baby.
At least that's essential,
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So one more thing I wanted to ask though before we get out of here. I don't want to take too much of your time, but your one picture I saw, you've got Machu Picchu in the background. So were you there recently or?
I was there in no, it wasn't 2 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was that like?
Yeah. Man, it was great. Yeah, it was. I love Peru. I lived in the jungle for a while. I mean, it's magical, absolutely magical living with the Shipibo people. in the Amazon is just a magical experience. And then going to Cusco and to the Andes Mountains and hiking through the mountains, and then doing the Inca Trail up to Machu Picchu. Man, when I first arrived at Machu Picchu, it was like the first time that the main character gets to see Avatar, from the sky, the misty. It was a misty morning, and it's just there's an energy to that place that is crazy too. It's wild.
Did you have like a psychedelic experience like before or after that, or relatively close to you being there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I drank ayahuasca like a week before. Yeah.
So what was that like to have that experience and go there? Was there anything like that came to your mind, like some sort of epiphany, or it was just like an all-encompassing feeling of being there, like an energy? Or
yeah, there was an energy. There was definitely a higher vibrational energy there, and it was very touristy, so there was that. Sure. Kind of took away from it a little bit. But we did get there early in the morning, so there wasn't as many people. I have a problem with like the people that just want to go there and take the classic picture.
Yeah.
Hey, put it on my Instagram.
See, I would love to like sit on one of those stones and like meditate or something.
That would have been great. Yeah, I didn't do that, but I definitely contemplated and thought and walked around intently and taking my time. And I was there for 2 days, so we got to explore the entirety of Machu Picchu for 2 days. And man, I just thought this is like a portal to another dimension or something. Like I just thought like these people knew something really like beyond the limits of what we're capable of understanding and measuring and quantifying in our time right now. Like that was the thought that I had. And I had some. You talked about these experiences before too. Like I had this experience in ancient Egypt while I was on ayahuasca, and I got the same sense there too. That there some kind of like higher technology, for lack of a better word, that these people had an understanding of how reality operates and how who we are and our place in the cosmos. That was it was like I got an information download or something, but I couldn't make sense of it. It just was a feeling and intuition.
Yeah, that's always fascinated me too, and I know a lot of people say the same thing as you, and I think that maybe that there definitely, I think that there's something to that in the sense that you are going, well, you're there, you are there at the exact same point, where those people were doing it, not in time, but in the location. So you're talking about morphic resonance. There could be something to that. But there also could be something to be said too about what you were saying about having just some knowledge, some knowledge that we couldn't even fathom now. And I think that maybe that would have to do with the fact that we use technology, we depend on technology, we do have all this time and space to think more and use our brains, which is like this amazing supercomputer, but it can also be used against us without, we don't have complete control over it. So when you look at what you were saying, I think that makes sense from the standpoint of there could be, I don't even know how to describe what I'm actually trying to say. There could be some connection to like almost like the many worlds thing, where it's like you're in the spot and it's not in the same place in time, but in that same spot where all those things are just around you and you're just not aware of. There's something in the air, or there's something magnetically, or whatever the case may be.
Vibration.
Definitely. I'm so glad that you said magnetically. I felt that. I felt this magnetism. This sort of magnetic energy.
People say that about Egypt too. People that have been like to the top of the pyramids and stuff like that. There's even some anecdotal evidence about a guy standing at the top and getting shocked from holding something up and kind of conducting that static that's in the air, that electricity. So yeah, that's definitely. As I was wanted to ask you about it, because I know anybody that I've talked to that's been to a real megalithic structure somewhere on Earth has had this feeling of like this energy, this almost like some weird energy that you can't really quantify or explain because it's new, because obviously you're not like an archaeologist, so it's not like you're there all the time. So
part-time archaeologist. Yeah, like Indiana Jones. I teach like an hour of class and then jump out the window. but yeah, I was recently watching this thing about Dune. Are you familiar with Dune, the book and the movie? Yeah. And I have never read the book, but I did watch the movie, and then I was watching this video because they're making a new movie, and they were talking about in the book that they had this advanced technological civilization, but things got out of control. So they decided to like outlaw robots and all this kind of. They had like AI robots and all this stuff. So they outlawed it, and due to the fact that they outlawed this particular kind of technology, people's powers grew, psychic powers and mystical arts like formed out of that. And I thought that to be really, really, really interesting, because I think about sometimes how we outsource a lot of our cognitive processes and things to the computer, to technology. We just kind of offload, that. And is it so it gets back to this question of like the middle way, the balance, the path of like how do we utilize this cool stuff that we have, but we also develop the innate kind of human gifts that we're born with to kind of merge in this symbiosis of psychic, mystical, spiritual, technological development. I think maybe that's what they figured out in some of these ancient civilizations. Maybe that's what they had going on. They figured out this balance maybe for a particular period of time.
No, that makes a lot of sense, and that's definitely something I've thought about in the past. So all you have back then is to look up at the stars, so you understand how the stars work. You understand how to maybe cut stone or different technologies with that, and then you kind of start putting the two things together, and then that you start getting meaning out of that, and then it becomes like a whole thing, and gets other people involved. I definitely think that's a good point. Just imagine if we didn't have any technology, just having to go outside, at night with no light and just being able to see like every star in the sky, no matter where you are in the world.
Oh, I love that. I oftentimes dream of leaving the city to have more of those experiences, because they're so powerful. They're so powerful. Yeah.
Oh, I'm fucked here because the glow of Chicago. There's a red glow coming off of Chicago. You can't avoid this thing.
Just keep your eye open for the Mothman.
Yeah. Hey, you talk about Mothman. Remember there was all those Chicago Mothman sightings.
Exactly.
Now there's a pandemic. I'm not, saying that there's any, but the Mothman's associated with being a harbinger of doom.
Yeah, I think what you said is with the red light and that kind of stuff. Like there is something that Rudolf Steiner talked about this in the early 20th century, about how the introduction of technology was decreasing the spiritual accessibility for most human beings.
He does talk about that.
Well, we already know that it affects your sleep, if you're staring at a screen.
We've done a couple, because we do like themed episodes too, where it's just us, and I do like a slideshow where we talk about one specific topic.
Oh, sweet.
We gotta do a Steiner one.
Yeah, we've done a couple Steiner ones, and we had one of our buddies' dads who knows a lot about like anthroposophy and stuff like that. But awesome. That what you were saying, I do remember listening to a lecture where they were talking about, he even correlated it to architecture, where you started with the Egyptians, and then you started to like simplify these structures, and then you get to the Greeks, and there's no ceiling where and then it almost like he went through like the architecture and like associated it with like spiritual development in a certain way. So that's an interesting lecture people should listen to. I think it's on YouTube. I think it's I forget the name of it. It might be Egyptian Mysteries or something like that.
Yeah, and you're not so inspired when you go outside right now and look at the sky. But if you were in the mountains and you went outside and you saw the sky full of stars, something happens to you. It's different.
I get the chills when we go up North Michigan on our annual camping trip, and you can see every star in the sky. You can see satellites. I mean, you can literally see everything. You get the you get the chills.
It's a nice little movie.
This is this is sick. This is what I wish it was more of, but.
Cool. We're working on it. It's coming.
We're working on it, man. Well, let's wrap it up here, but I really appreciate you coming on. Anytime you want to come on, man, this was super fun. We could probably talk all night. There's, like I said, there's a lot of crossover about topics that we talk about on our podcast that you talk about on your podcast, but also seems like we're kind of on the same page with a lot of this stuff too. So you're welcome to come on, anytime or whatever.
Yeah, cool, man. Yeah, definitely. Likewise as well. So, let's rip and riff and jam some more. It was a pleasure meeting and talking with you guys.
Yeah, for sure.
Thanks for coming on, my man.
Yeah, thanks again. And
yeah, we can definitely dive a lot deeper. It'll fun. Yeah.
So anything you want to plug? I mean, I've got the links to your website and your podcast, your YouTube below.
Oh, YouTube, YouTube's. I don't really do much on there. I want to do more, so thanks for putting that there. But yeah, mainly the podcast is on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all the podcast places. Mikeadelic, Mikeadelic _ podcast on Instagram. I'm pretty active on there. And then I'm part of this group called Isolation Tank, is a live streaming Zoom show with people, Michael Phillip from Third Eye Drops, Jennifer Sodini from Evolve and Ascend, Sophia Rockland, just a bunch of great people, in there. And so we stream live on Fridays at 6 p.m. Pacific and 9 p.m. Eastern time, and that's on the DMT, the Spirit Molecule page, and Evolve and Ascend. Okay. And it's great. Yeah, it's like a new project I'm really happy about, and so yeah, check that out. And the Mikeadelic podcast, I'm doing things on there. And then I got a Discord server that I'm excited about.
Nice.
Building some community with my Patreon crowd and putting out bonus episodes, doing some more comedy stuff and things like that. And that's
we'll have to link out. I'll find we just started a Discord as well, so I'll definitely check out your channel. And check us out. Subscribe to our channel, like the video, check us out on Patreon at patreon.com/Mike and Maurice. I just recently put some stuff up on there, and our website. I'm actually going to be working on our website too. I don't love it, so that'll be changing soon, maybe even a different URL as well. But and we'll catch you guys next time. We're going to get the super volcano one in, I promise. I know I keep saying it, but I had some stuff that working on, big announcements coming up with that as well, hopefully in the next couple of weeks with another project I've been working on. So check that out. Beautiful. And stay safe out there, folks. And we love you all. Thanks for watching. Peace.
Cheers.
Thanks. Peace.